The speculation surrounding the future of Formula One driver Sergio Perez grows with each passing Formula One weekend, and Red Bull have fueled the rumors with their latest social media post. Perez failed again last time out in Qatar, crashing out during the sprint and receiving 3-time penalties during the Grand Prix from the stewards, which saw him claim just 1 point. McLaren have now outscored Red Bull over the last 3 rounds of the 2023 F1 Championship, something unthinkable for the world champions should that form continue into next season. Perez threatened with the sack. Following the chaos in Qatar, reports suggest Perez has been told he will lose if drive with the team, should he fail to secure P2 in the Drivers' Championship. Checo is being hunted down by Lewis Hamilton for the runners-up spot, and the 7-times champion is now just 30 points behind the Mexican. Following the news that the Belgium Grand Prix has been given another reprieve by FOM and will now remain on the calendar until 2025, Red Bull Racing posted a throwback picture on X. The image, carefully selected, features Max Verstappen and his former teammate Daniel Ricciardo sitting in camping chairs, chatting amiably at the top of the famous Eau Rouge corner. Ricciardo had success alongside Max. Daniel Ricciardo is the only driver Red Bull have paired with Max Verstappen, who has challenged the now 3-times world champion. Ricciardo raced alongside the Dutch driver for close to 3 seasons and was only beaten by Max in their final year together. After being dumped by McLaren with a year remaining on his contract, Ricciardo was snapped up by Red Bull as their reserve driver for 2023 in a move many believed was intended to put the pressure on Sergio Perez. Then, after just 10 races this season, the sister team AlphaTauri sacked rookie NYCK De Vries, and Danny was recruited to drive alongside Yuki Tsunoda for the rest of the season. Despite not having raced a current F1 car for almost 8 months, the Aussie favorite was quickly matching and surpassing the pace of his Japanese teammate. Then in practice at Zandvoort, Daniel broke his hand during Friday practice as he crashed into a strained McLaren at turn 3. Ricciardo is set to return this coming weekend for the USA Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, where he famously rode into the paddock on a horse dressed as a cowboy. Meanwhile, all eyes will be on Sergio Perez this weekend, who must qualify and score a decent haul of points, but the sprint format will not help Checo get comfortable before qualifying begins in the second track session. Albon's star in the ascendancy. Red Bull have not been shy to promote and replace their drivers with impunity, as De Vries found to his misfortune this year, and one of those drivers was Alex Albon, who had a meteoric rise from his F1 rookie status and now drives for Williams. Albon was plucked from his Nissan Edams contract and recruited to racer alongside Daniil Kvyat in the Scuderia Toro Rosso team, now AlphaTauri. Such was the Thai driver's pace, he was promoted following the Hungarian Grand Prix to the Red Bull seat occupied by Pierre Gasly, who then returned to Toro Rosso, having failed to prove a good number 2 for Verstappen. Alex continued driving for Red Bull in 2020, though he scored just around half their points of Verstappen and was dropped to the role of reserve driver the following season, and Sergio Perez was recruited from the Racing Point Aston Martin team. The following year, Williams signed Alex Albon, who quickly proved his talent in an underperforming car. This year, Albon has led the charge for the historic British team, scoring all 23 points for Williams, which now sees them comfortably ahead of their rivals in 7th place in the constructors' table. Alex tipped as Perez replacement. Albon is now 13th in the driver standings and is the highest placed driver from all the teams outside the top 6, and has now been tipped to replace Perez at Red Bull Racing. Albon would also be a dream candidate actually for the Red Bull mother team for next year to replace Sergio Perez, but unfortunately, as Helmut Marko was saying, Albon is locked in with a long-term contract there at Williams, commented 2016 world champion Nico Rosberg. Yet, as McLaren demonstrated with Ricciardo and Red Bull with De Vries this year, contracts are merely a form of financial protection for the team holding them. Were Red Bull to decide Albon is the right driver to put alongside Verstappen for 2024, then a mere contract would not prevent this from becoming reality. Albon himself revealed during the Qatar weekend that all the drivers know Red Bull have an open offer on the table for Lando Norris, should he wish to leave McLaren and join the world champions. Norris ruled out of Red Bull. With McLaren coming good this year, Norris is likely to stay with the team for at least 1 more year and has a contract which would see him through to the end of 2025 should he wish to remain there until then. Brazilian publication Globo reported this week that a source close to Sergio Perez's personal sponsor Telmex was claiming Checo would announce his retirement at the Mexican Grand Prix. Further, the organizers were planning a big farewell party at the event, which is set for the weekend after the coming race in Texas. Albon to Red Bull would indeed be a shock move, but given Ricciardo has been out for several weeks and now has just 5 races remaining to demonstrate he is worthy of the seat alongside Max next year, Albon could be seen as less of a gamble, having raced all year and is surely capable of delivering more points than Perez. Struggling Logan Sargeant boldly compares himself to Lewis Hamilton, pleading to extend F1 career. The jump into Formula One is never easy for a rookie, but every once in a while, they hope they'll be able to emulate what Lewis Hamilton did in 2007. They hope they'll be good enough to fight for races. They hope they'll be good enough to fight for championships, and sometimes, they just hope they'll be good enough to stay in F1 long enough to prove themselves. For Oscar Piastri, 2023 has worked out in his favor, but it's been a struggle for the driver he grew up racing against, Logan Sargeant. This season, Williams snatched Sargeant up from F2 and put him alongside Alexander Albon. While the British Thai driver is having quite the season, his American teammate is struggling to cope. He's at the bottom of the standings, the only driver, raced in all rounds, without a point, but the standings he is topping are the costs incurred due to crash damages. In recent weeks, his seat has come under heavy scrutiny because of his subpar performances. Now, he's hit back by making quite a strong case for himself. 2007 Lewis Hamilton had an advantage over Logan Sargeant. Along with Sargeant, many have questioned Williams as well. Why? At the end of the day, Sargeant is the team's driver, and Williams has put its faith in him. Since he isn't performing, many have asked team principal James Vowles if he will do anything about it. At the Qatar GP, Vowles laid everything out there and made his intentions crystal clear. He said, "We've taken someone straight out of Formula 2, put him a day and a half in Bahrain in this car, and then wished them well on a season that has been awfully challenging for rookie drivers." If you feel that Piastri is doing a good job, which he is, he spent 2022 entirely on F1 testing. That's where Sargeant is at a disadvantage, not only to Piastri but also to Hamilton. Even if it had more days during the winter, whatever the car it was, it would have been better. As Vowles said, Sargeant got just a little more than a day to get used to an F1 car. There have been times when the American has performed well in a session, it's just that he hasn't had time to learn how to put it all together. Sargeant feels he just needs more time, and Vowles is ready to give it to him. At the end of the year, I'll be able to look him in the eyes and know that we've given him the best opportunity or that he is going to be in the car next year, but let's provide him the time to be able to do that, Vowles told F1. Apart from giving rookies time to grow, the Williams team principal also sounded alarm bells for F1 in terms of the opportunities it provides. James Vowles isn't too happy with F1's entry opportunities. The 2023 season has seen 4 rookies: Sargeant, Piastri, NYCK De Vries, and Liam Lawson. After Red Bull sacked De Vries, Daniel Ricciardo stepped in, he fractured his hand, and Liam Lawson got his F1 debut as a super sub. For the 5 race weekends he drove for AlphaTauri, he did a phenomenal job, but now that Ricciardo has recovered, Lawson has been shown the door for 2023. What's worse is that he proved he has what it takes to be in F1, but he still doesn't have a seat for 2024. Red Bull simply has no place for him at the moment. Vowles gave his take on Lawson and F1's rookie situation. He said, "I think we as a sport have a responsibility to perhaps relook at the rules and say, how do we introduce rookie drivers to it? You can see Liam will be sidelined, but I think he's absolutely deserving of a seat on this grid. It's a reflection of these difficult sprint race formats, followed by 1-hour sessions, followed by a lack of opportunity to grow."